And we're live.
Let's get down to the starting line. I'm going to tell you what you're going to be seeing on tonight's show. The starting line is, of course, brought to you by Motion Pro. In the next time, try this segment. We've got a segment about grease. You're going to be real interested in hearing about this. In the Moto Showcase tonight, a 1974 Honda CR125 that was sent in by Jay Hall. Here's the problem. We'll be talking about sprockets and a few other things that you're going to really be interested in. What's it worth? A 76 KX250 recently sold on eBay in Tennessee. We'll be telling you more about that. Garage tour. You're going to really love this. We were on the road. We spoke to a young man named Bill Wheeler. We're going to be bringing a really nice segment on that coming up in the show tonight. Good evening, everyone. I'm Joe Abadi, and you're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A. Thank you, Jordan, Chelsea, and Susie, for helping me put the show together, and thank you, the viewers at home, who have joined us this evening. Don't forget to keep sharing the show, whether you're on Facebook or you're on YouTube. We're going to have a random share giveaway winner a little bit later on in the show. You're going to win a set of nice tire spoons, compliments of Motion Pro. So, if you're on YouTube, don't forget to comment Motion Pro. And our YouTube channel is going really, really well, but we could use some more subscribers. Don't forget, go over there, subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can see all the shows from Vintage Motocross Q&A, and you'll get a little alert like this when we are live on the air, and all the interviews that we've done on Vintage Motocross Radio are available there as well. How are the pros watching the show? The experts? They're sitting back on their couch looking at their big screen TV, and as these segments roll through our show, they're commenting from their phone all their thoughts. They're talking about sharing the show. They're talking about all kinds of things that are happening here at Vintage Motocross Q&A, and that's how the pros are doing it. Hey, don't forget to keep sharing and sending in your questions, your comments, pictures of your bikes from the Moto Showcase. We love to hear from you, whether it's just questions about a problem you're having with a bike, or a show you want us, a bike you'd like us to feature here on the show. Contact me through Facebook, via email, send me a message. I'll be happy to correspond with you on whatever it is you have that you want to see on the show, whether it's a bike, whether you have a question, or whether you have a comment. As always, I got to thank our sponsors. They're doing such a great job, and they're seeing some results there too. Motion Pro, Vinco, Racer X Magazine, Preston Petty Products, Sunrise Vapor Blasting, Golan Products, Full Circle Racing, and of course, Northwest Mako CZ. The next time Try This segment is brought to you by Vinco. Keep the ride going. And this week, I want to talk to you about grease. No, not about that great movie from the 70s starring John Travolta and Olivia Newton-John, but I want to talk about grease as in lubricants. Okay? Now, there is something called the National Lubricating Grease Institute. Yes, there is an organization that keeps track of manufacturers of grease, the quality of them, how they're made, and what they're good for. Now, when most of us go out there, you go into an auto parts store, you're going to buy grease, and it's just your basic type of grease that we're all familiar with, and it's got the consistency of maybe peanut butter. But the reality of it is, greases come in a lot of different viscosities, the same way oil does. And the rating on them is from 000, which is just about the consistency of olive oil, all the way up to a number 6, which would be so thick it would be like cheddar cheese. That's how thick it would be. Here it is. Here's a good display of it. It tells you exactly what the thicknesses and the viscosities are compared to something you would be more familiar with, whether it's cooking oil, applesauce, frozen yogurt, whatever it may be. But there are different consistencies in the grease that you're going to use in certain bikes. So if you're going to use something, say, in the steering bearings of your bike, you're not going to want something that's too thick, okay? You're gonna want something a little on the softer side that's gonna move around in that bearing and in the races a little bit easier. If you're going to grease something, say, a wheel bearing of your bike, or Many of you have trucks, and I'm sure you have trailers. You're going to want something a little thicker in there, maybe a 4 or a 5 when it comes to viscosity and that type of grease. Now, something you have to keep in mind is that your bearings get hot. I'm sure you're very familiar with that. How hot do they get? Well, that's going to depend on what kind of grease you should be using. The grease needs to melt, but not melt to the point of where it's going to migrate away from your bearing. You don't want it to migrate away. You want it to stay around the bearing. You want it to get just liquid enough to move around and keep lubricating the bearing without running out. You don't want it so thick, though, that it doesn't get hot, it doesn't liquefy to some point and move around at all. So next time you're out and you're in an auto parts store or you're doing a bearing change or cleaning your bearings and racing on your bike, think about the viscosity of the grease. And when you go out, you'll get the right stuff for the job. I want to thank AMSOIL, a former sponsor of this show. They've got a great little list here, and they've got a lot of information on their website too. So if you go over to amsoil.com, you'll find out a lot more about grease, viscosities, and different places and ways you can use it. So next time you're out shopping for grease, try that. I want to thank Vinco for being a sponsor of the segment. Vinco, keep the ride going. And how you keep it going? I'll tell you how you keep your Husqvarna going. You keep your Husky going with a new sleeve for the CR250 and the WR250. That's for 74 and 75. It's a stock bore, 69.5. It says here it's made for Vinco by Advanced Sleeve. It's 69.5 bore. The OD is 81.3. The flange OD is 86.9. And it goes on and on with all the specs about this amazing cylinder sleeve that you can replace the one in your Husky with, okay? It's only available from Vinco for $169.95. Vinco, keep the ride going. In the Moto Showcase tonight, which is brought to you by Preston Petty Products. We'll be telling you a little bit more about a special we have from them later on. But right now in the Moto Showcase, we've got a really nice 1974 Honda CR125 that was sent in to us from Jay Hall. Jay restored this bike. He did an absolutely fantastic job on it. I'll read to you a little bit about what Jay told me while Jordan goes through the slides. Joe, I bought this bike from a guy who lives in Pennsylvania, and I've only owned it for several months. I had to repair one rim and the pipe. I had Brian Fettigan repaint the side panels, the fenders, and the gas tank. I had the rims reanodized as well. I used all Honda parts and cables, all OEM, wherever I could find them. I didn't have to split the cases. I used new wheel bearings, new brakes. The spokes are stainless steel. I purchased them from Buchanan. Next time, purchased them from Full Circle Racing, Jay. I know you do a lot of business with Full Circle. Anyway, the tires are Dunlops, and I did buy a new seat cover. The list is really endless, and in the end, between the purchase of the bike and all the parts that I bought, I'm into it for over $7,000, not including my time. I want to give a special thanks to Brian Cox for selling me a sprocket cover, which seemed to be almost impossible to find. He's an amazing guy. And I want to thank you, Joe, for all you do at Vintage Motocross Q&A and Vintage Motocross Radio. I hope you enjoy the bike, and I hope your viewers enjoy it as well. I enjoyed it very much, Jag. You did a beautiful job on this Honda. I know you to be a Suzuki guy in the past. You've done some great restorations on those, but you've really shined on this Honda as well. And by the way, the frame paint on this bike, the frame, the shocks, and the hubs, it's done by a special formula that Jay came up with, and it's out of a can. If you look at last week's show and the next time try this segment, you'll see where Jay talks about or told me about, and I shared with you what kind of paint he used on this frame, hub, springs, etc. It's really great stuff. Go to last week's episode. You'll learn more about it. Jay Hall, thanks for sending in that stellar bike, my friend. Oh, and get a hold of me. I'll send you something from Preston Petty Products. Not this stuff, but something. This week's special at Preston Petty, just $122. We've got a yellow fender combination, mutter, front and rear, and 3 yellow number plates. Nice, neat little package, just $122 at PrestonPettyProducts.com. You know, another thing I like about Preston Petty Products is this little drawing they have of the sizes of the fender. A through G gives all the sizes. You got a little Hodaka with an 18-inch front wheel on it. You want to know if this fender is right for you? Maybe you got a bike with a 21-inch front wheel. Maybe you got a 79 Honda with a 23-inch front wheel you want to put a Petty fender on. Go over, check out this drawing. It gives you all the measurements, and you'll be sure when you purchase a fender from Preston Petty Products that it's just right for your bike. Thanks, Paul Stannard, for all you do for us here at Vintage Motocross Q&A. Here's the problem segment, sponsored by Motion Pro. For all your specialized tools, cables, and controls, visit Motion Pro online and on Facebook and on Instagram. They're everywhere. Here's the problem. What's the first problem we have tonight, Jordan? Jay Clark on the 1975 Honda CR250, who sells the dished rear sprocket? I don't know. I looked around and I asked some guys who own 75 CR250s, and it doesn't appear that anybody makes that dished rear sprocket. Here's a picture of what Jay is talking about. You look closer here in the picture, you can see it is dished. Dish sprockets came on a couple of different bikes, not only the 75 CR250, but the early CR125 Husqvarnas and the 75 or 76 YZ125C. Anyway, we don't know anyone that makes a dish sprocket for the 75 Honda 250J, but what you can do is you can buy a flat sprocket and you can space it out. There's another glimpse of a dish sprocket from Yamaha. Now, you can take some spacers and put it behind that sprocket on a flat sprocket to bring it out even so your chain is going to line up with your counter shaft sprocket. Of course, to do that, you're going to have to replace the studs in the rear hub. So if you do find that sprocket, don't forget, you're going to wind up spacing it out. I think it's only about 6 or 7 millimeters, but whatever it is, you're going to need a stud that's a little bit longer to replace the ones in your hub. So when you space that hub out, or when you space that sprocket out, it lines up with your counter shaft sprocket and your chain runs nice and straight. Thanks, Jay Clark, for the question. In the Vintage Husqvarna group, the other day, I saw a question there and I just wanted to answer it for the guy. And when I did, I asked him if I could use it on the show. Unfortunately, I misplaced the guy's name. So if you're watching the show, please tell me who you are, and I will give you credit for posting this question and allowing me to use it here on the show. It was in the Vintage Husqvarna group. What can I do to repair the hundreds of tiny nicks in this cover? Can they be filled? This guy's got a Husqvarna and it has some oxidation in the aluminum. And yeah, it does look like there are hundreds of little nicks in that cover. You can see it here in the next picture. There you go. What I would recommend first is that you vapor blast or glass bead that cover to get everything off of it and get any loose oxidizing that may be down in those pits. Once you get that all cleared off, I would recommend taking some 180 grit, 150 grit sandpaper and gently going around in circles on that cover and bringing that all down to a nice level finish. You're going to have some, you might have some nicks in there. You might have some little gouges. You're going to take it all down and you're going to see that the hundreds of little holes that you have there, or little pits, you're not going to have hundreds by the time you're done. You might have a couple of dozen and it's going to be nice and level when you're done. When you do that and you have it all stripped, you could use some lab metal. This stuff is absolutely fantastic, and I should do a segment on the show with lab metal. This stuff is like an epoxy, like a JB Weld. It actually has metal in it. It's ready to use right out of the can. You could even use this stuff on powder-coated parts. That's how much metal it actually has in it. And you could fill in those pits and little nicks with lab metal, sand it down, and you'll be ready to go. In the future, I am going to do a segment with the lab metal, but that's a way to handle that Husqvarna cover with all those little pits in it. I saw this in the Vintage Suzuki RMTM group today. I thought it would be kind of helpful. It wasn't a question that was sent in, but I just saw it in the group, and I thought it might be helpful for some of you guys. I've never seen anything like it before, so here it goes. I have a 77 RM125 that I'm freshening up and notice the restrictor plate on the exhaust flange. Can I go ahead and remove it? And the guy put up a picture of an exhaust flange, and it looked like this, an NOS exhaust flange, and it's got like a restrictor plate on one side. Now, a few guys jumped in there and said that they were familiar with this and that they've seen it before. Apparently, this came on a PE 175, okay, like a little dual-purpose enduro bike that Suzuki had back there in the late 70s. And it was in there, I guess, to kind of deaden the sound a bit, keep the decibels down. Somebody else jumped in and said that it may have been found on the RM100 as well. I got a little bit of a hard time believing that it is possible. Anyway, the answer to the question is yes. You can mill out that plate. You could grind it away. Probably a milling machine would be best to open up that restrictor plate the size of that flange, and you'll have a bike that, of course, will breathe a whole lot better out of the exhaust. But if anybody out there, maybe hunting through some NOS parts at some old Suzuki dealer, and you see a flange like that, that's what it's for. PE 175, possibly an RM 100, but it can be used on the RM 125B as well. I just thought that'd be some interesting information to share with you here on the show tonight.
Hey, I'm Brad Lackey, and you're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A. Be right back.
Hi, I'm Jeff with Motion Pro, introducing you to the Masterlink Press Tool. Now, the Masterlink Press Tool is an innovative addition to our wide variety of chain tools here at Motion Pro, and what makes this tool so unique is that it both presses on and presses off Masterlink side plates. It's designed to be used with all 50 series clip-style links and performs the job very easily. The Masterlink Press Tool is constructed with a billet aluminum body and hardened steel pins for long-lasting durability. It's affordably priced at $28.99 and is available from your favorite dealers nationwide.
Hey, it's Joe Abadi for Vintage Motocross Q&A, and today we're at Wheelhouse Garage in Livermore, California. We're going to be speaking to Bill Wheeler, a very interesting young man who's got a great passion for the old bikes. Let's go inside. We'll talk to Bill right now.
Hey everybody, I'm Bill Wheeler, and this is Wheelhouse Garage at 1414 Portola Avenue in Livermore. It's a vintage motorcycle dealership. We do all types of vintage bikes, usually pre-71 European, and also consign and broker, almost anything vintage.
We've got two bikes here that look kind of familiar to me that belong to a buddy of mine.
Yeah, both of these bikes here are currently in the Brad Lackey collection, and we're looking for new homes for them. This is a 1985 CR500. Fantastic bike, fired up yesterday, sounds great, runs great. This is a 2005 Suzuki, so Brad's modern motocross bike, if you will. This one's also available. Information's on the website. And this one actually comes with that awesome Suzuki dealer sign as well. This bike right here is a 1944 BSA WD M20. So a military issue 500 single. They were cranking out 1,000 a week in Birmingham during World War II. This is one of the bikes from that era, and it was purchased recently by a local guy in Livermore, and he's been riding it, so I just got it back in for a checkup, make sure everything is sorted nicely. And although we've got a lot of full-size bikes here, I've also got some minis available, like this stunning 1975 Honda MR50. 3-speed with a clutch, a real classic. It's called the Baby Elsinore, and this was a really cool kids bike in the mid-70s. They only made this bike for 2 years. This is the silver tank version, which is, you don't see that often. These are amazing bikes. I know a lot of people probably remember them from their childhood. My son, I actually just got one very similar to this for my son, who's 6 years old, and he's having a great time with it. So this is a fantastic bike ready for display, or you can ride it if you'd like. This bike is here on consignment. It is available on the website. The motor is a 66 T100 motor. It's got a 4-plug head, ARD mag, bunch of goodies, and this is full-on ready to race in a Cheney frame. This is a nickel-plated Cheney frame. The frame's actually from the early 90s. Lida tank, CZ hubs, alloy fenders, ready to go.
So how'd you get into these old bikes, Bill? You're a young guy, and you seem to be riding bikes that are a whole lot older than you are.
Yeah, totally. I've been into bikes my whole life. My dad surprised the family with a set of dirt bikes when I was 10. I started riding there. We went to Carnegie every weekend, and that's where the whole love of motorcycles started. As an adult, my wife's uncle actually gave me a 1974 Sportster, and the transmission was stuck. I took it home, took it all apart, got it running, and started riding that, and I just kind of fell in love with it. I loved that process. Fast forward a little later, bought an RD400, got that going, sold that, made some money on that, so that's kind of when the light bulb went off for a dealership type model, and I experimented with a bunch of different bikes since then, buying them, getting them running, and selling them, and it's just my favorite thing to do. I love it. It's my passion. I get to live it out every day.
Now, one of your favorite bikes to ride, and you ride it on the street and on the trail, is this BSA.
Yeah, that's a 67 BSA 441. It's set up in scrambler style. I was just riding it this past weekend up in the Sierras. I ride it all the time. It's my get-around bike for around town stuff and errands, and you can take it right off any trail you'd like, and it's a fantastic bike. I really, really enjoy this motorcycle. Runs great, starts first kick, despite the rumors on many 441s, so it's quite an enjoyable bike. So we've got a lot of bikes here in the showroom. I've got even more available online at wheelhousegarage.co. And then if you want to follow me on Instagram, it's wheelhouse_garage. I do a lot of daily updates. We fire up bikes all the time and hear them run, so it's pretty fun if you'd like to follow along.
I want to thank Billy Wheeler for letting me down there at the Wheelhouse Garage in Livermore. Bill Wheeler, a young man with a great passion for motocross bikes, old street bikes, and it's exactly what we need in this hobby to keep things going. So if you get an opportunity, go check him out online, or as Bill said, wheelhouse_garage on Instagram. Thank you, Bill Wheeler. In the What's It Worth segment tonight, which is brought to you by Full Circle Racing Limited, we'll be telling you a little bit more about that in just a moment. But what's it worth? This is, of course, a segment of the show where we encourage you to type in to the comment section what you think this bike recently sold for. I'll tell you this, that it was sold in Tennessee on July 19th. And I'll tell you a little bit more about this 76 Kawasaki KX250. First of all, it's the same bike basically as a 74 and a 75 with the exception of the paint scheme and the black fenders. All the bikes were about 34 horsepower. They weighed around 219 pounds, and they were all piston port bikes. They did not have a reed valve at that time. And there was no 1977 250. They came out again with the A4 and 78. But this bike in particular on eBay claims that the owner had it for approximately several years. The bike ran and shifts as it should. There isn't any problem with it. It is not 100% original. Some things have been touched up. It looks like the pipe was painted. The bars were changed and the shocks were not original. However, most of the rest of the bike does appear original to me, and I started it quite a while ago, probably close to a year, and then stored it away in a climate-controlled garage. It was actually in my house. That's all I can tell you about the bike. Other than that, what you see in the pictures is pretty much what it is. And I would agree with this guy. It does look pretty original, although it does appear to be touched up. Probably the clutch cover was painted. The shocks aren't original, neither are the bars. But anyway, this bike did sell recently on eBay in Tennessee. How much did it sell for? $2,800? $4,895? This bike sold for $3,936. I thought that was a pretty fair deal. Maybe a couple of shocks and a set of handlebars away from maybe not a completely original bike, but a very, very nice bike that just had a couple of cosmetic things done to it. Fair price, I thought. $39.36. Who was the closest without going over this week? That's it for the What's It Worth segment. What's It Worth segment is, of course, brought to you by Full Circle Racing Limited. You've heard me talk about Tom McAllister for months here now. He's doing a great job for a lot of our customers, or a lot of his customers who watch our show. The powder coating special is still going on, just $50 a hub. He'll bead blast it, mask it, disassemble it, powder coat it. We'll make it either a matte black finish or a gloss black for just $20 more. He'll make it any color you want. For $10 more, he'll do the brake backing plate as well. You can't beat it for all your vintage and modern lacing, truing, wheel needs. There's no place quite like Full Circle Racing Limited. And if you don't believe me, check this out. These are some of the things that people are saying about Tom McAllister and Full Circle Racing. Kevin Caldwell. Tom McAllister is good people. He donated some rims to our Midwest VMX limited liability banquet a few years back. I bought rims from him, spokes from him several times, always timely and fair. There were some other things that some people had said. Chris Cecilius, Full Circle Racing Limited, an outstanding company. Tom has sponsored the Northwest Challenge for 6 years now. He's always helping out with vintage moto community. There's Jay Hall's comment. We know that Jay uses them. Gordon McCaffer, old friend of mine. First guy I met when I came to vintage racing back in 1999. Gordon says Tom McAllister supplied the matching gold rims and heavy-duty stainless steel spokes from my 1981 YZ 125 build. First-class service. Those are just some of the people that have been raving about Tom McAllister and Full Circle Racing Limited. Give them a shout when you can, whatever you might need. Full Circle Racing Limited. Thanks, Tom. The Vintage Motocross Q&A Buyers and Sellers Price Guide page has been on Facebook now for going on 7 years. There are over 16,000 members there. I started this group way, way back then. What we do here is discuss the value of bikes. You have a bike that you're looking to sell and you want to know a fair asking price for it, post some pictures of it. If you're looking to buy a bike and you want to know if you're paying a fair price, post pictures of it there. You'll get some really, really helpful advice from some seasoned guys who do a lot of buying and selling. Also, dozens and dozens of albums with hundreds of bikes from private sales, from auctions, from recent sales. It's a great place to be a member of Vintage Motocross Buyers and Sellers Price Guide page. Have you ever heard of, this segment is brought to you by Sunrise Vapor Blasting, and we're doing something a little bit different here this week. Usually I go out and find some obscure bike and ask you, have you ever heard of? But Craig Smolin, a good friend to the show, has sent in questions, has sent in bikes to us before. He had a little 1969 Benelli Buzzer. So have you ever heard of a Benelli? Well, you might have, but you might not have heard of a Buzzer. I'll tell you a little bit about it. Before the early 70s, there weren't many lightweight motorcycles with low seat heights. Even Hummers and Whizzers and most scooters had a 25-inch seat height or more, so the kids couldn't really get involved in the sport until they got a little bit bigger. But some Americans and foreign motorcycle manufacturers saw a demand for what was strong and set out to make a fairly sophisticated machine, sometimes with a small engine, and wanted it to be very popular and a lightweight commuter motorcycle for Europe. Montgomery Ward and Sears Roebuck were among the retail outlets who sold these bikes in America, and the little Benelli Buzzer was one of those bikes. Now, don't forget, this bike happens to be a 69. But the Benelli Buzzers were out a little bit before that, and the Honda Z50 didn't come out until 1968. Anyway, the Benelli Buzzer was one of about 6 different Benelli models with various wheel and engine sizes, and some of them had multi-speed transmissions. Some of them had a single speed. As kids grew, the seat could be raised, and even the dad and mom could get involved and register this thing legally for the street. This Buzzer is equipped with a single-speed transmission, an automatic clutch, front suspension, center stand, drum brakes, folding bars, foot pegs, and it could lay flat in the trunk of a car. I want to thank our friend Craig Smolin for sending in pictures of his bike. That's his bike there on the deck. It really is a great looking little piece, a very unusual Italian bike from the 70s. Craig Smolin, thanks for sending in that little bike to us. And next time somebody asks, have you ever heard of a Benelli? You're going to say yes. And they're going to say, have you ever heard of a Benelli Buzzer? You're going to say, yeah, I heard of that too. Thanks, Craig. Oh, Sunrise Vapor Blasting. Nobody does a job like Mark Farrier or Sunrise Vapor Blasting. If you've got boats, cars, automobiles, or you've got something made of metal that's very, very delicate and fine, and you want to clean it up and not change the profile of it, whether it's aluminum, steel, titanium, it could be anything, get it over to Mark Farrier at Sunrise Vapor Blasting. We've been selling him parts for some time now. A very, very fast turnaround time at an exceptionally reasonable rate. So get your stuff over to Mark Farrier at Sunrise Vapor Blasting. If you don't believe me, here's something that we sent him in just this week. Check this out. Look at these sprockets for Suzuki RM. You want your sprocket to look like this, or you want it to look like this? This is what this one looked like before I sent it to Mark Farrier after we sent it back. It is absolutely beautiful now. All the nicks are right, down and smooth. It's got a beautiful finish on it. It'd be perfect now if you wanted to put a brush finish on it or if you wanted to polish it. But one thing is for sure, Mark Farrier and Sunrise Vapor Blasting are the first step in restoring your metal products. Check them out online, Sunrise Vapor Blasting. We're going to take a commercial break. Don't forget to keep sharing the show. When we get back, I will have tonight's random share giveaway winner.
Classic and vintage dirt bikes are more than a hobby. It's not just about the ride. It's about the work that goes in. The work that keeps you connected to the ride. It's about bringing the bike back to life and doing it with your own hands. It's about the adrenaline and adventure. And when it comes to putting all the pieces together, only Vinco knows the bikes and parts the way you do. Vinco, keep the ride going.
Tonight's random share giveaway winner is Joey Blevins. Joey Blevins, if you're still watching the show, drop us a line, get us your mailing address, and we're going to get you out a set of Motion Pro tire spoons, just like this. Make it a breeze putting those tires on your bike. Joey Blevins, if you're still watching. If you're a friend of Joey's or your next of kin, let Joey Blevins know that he was the big winner tonight on Vintage Motocross Q&A. This Week in MX History is brought to you by RacerX, the finest motocross publication on your newsstand now. Also available online, RacerX. Don't forget to see our ad in the back. 1977, at the 500 National at Unadilla, Team Honda riders Marty Smith and Tommy Croft went 1 and 2 as Smith closed in on the 1977 500cc National Championship. Smith got an additional boost with when his rival, Bob Hanna, and Team Yamaha, in the second moto, he broke down after winning the first moto. So Marty caught a little bit of a break there. And on a high mark that day for Harley Davidson, Rex Staten actually finished 3rd overall on a Works Harley. And that's what happened in 1977. What do we got next, Jordan? 1983. Team Honda's David Bailey won the 250cc GUSGP at Unadilla, topping defending FIM Motocross World Champion Danny Laporte and Honda support rider Brian Myerscough, who nearly pulled off a big upset win by leading much of the race, but was worn down in the 40 minutes plus 2 laps motos. Bailey's win came at a tough time for Danny Laporte, who was locked in a battle with Belgium's Georges Jobet, a 1980 FIM 250cc World Motocross champion and a future 500cc World champion as well. Danny had only won 1 of the GPs out of 9 that year, and he was beginning to lose his grip on that number 1 plate. And he was, of course, the first to be the 250 World Champion from the USA in 1982. Tough day for Danny, but he came out on top. Now, the same day, way across the world in Finland, Jim Gibson won the 125 GP. That's right, Jim Gibson won the 125 GP that day. He went 1 and 2 that day over Mark Velkeniers, who went 2 and 2. But the score was actually based on Gibson's overall time. That's the way they did it in the GPs back then. And Gibson won. An interesting note is, of course, that Mark Velkeniers was on a Galera. He was on a Galera that day. But Jim Gibson was victorious on that Yamaha in 1983. In 1989, the Dogger wins at Kenworthy, Ohio. Kawasaki's Ron Lachine won the Kenworthy 500 over Honda's Jeff Lees, who hailed from Australia, and his Kawasaki teammate, Jeff Ward. Honda's George Holland, on his way to the AMA 125cc National Championship, won the 125 class. Holland went 1 and 2 that day. The teammates Guy Cooper's 1 and 5, and the 4 and 2 of Suzuki's Donnie Schmidt. It was also announced at that race that Ward, Lachine, and Team Honda's Ricky Johnson would represent Team USA in the 1988 FIM Motocross des Nations in France. Big day for the Dogger, big day for Team USA. Just some great times back there in the 80s. We've got some announcements. The announcements are, of course, brought to you by Golan Industries. Jordan, what do we have first? We'll talk about the Golan Products filter. I've been talking about it for months here. It's such a great filter. It's made of billet aluminum. It comes in silver, blue, orange, and red. It comes for any bike. It's made for minis. It's made for supermoto bikes, off-road bikes, dual-purpose enduros, motocrossers, 4-strokes, you name it. Elin Golan and Golan Products makes a filter for your bike. Now, what makes this filter extra special is that you can open it up anywhere without any tools, on the trail or at home. There's a screen in there that can be cleaned out indefinitely, and it'll cut down to 10 microns of anything in your fuel. You can't see 10 microns in your eye, with your eye. You can't see it, but they get in that screen, you're going to trap them, you can clean it out. And a really nice thing right now is Elin Golan and Golan Products are looking for distributors. So if you're out there on the road or if you have a retail shop, get a hold of Golan Products at golanpro@yahoo.com. You store it here at Vintage Motocross Q&A. It's the last filter you're ever going to buy. Costs a couple of bucks more, but I'll tell you, it's absolutely indestructible and can be cleaned indefinitely. Golan Products. Vintage Motocross Q&A Radio. Last week, my guest was NBA legend and Vintage Motocross enthusiast, Rick Smits. Let's listen to some of the sound bites and some of the things that Rick had to say on the show.
When did this motorcycle bug begin? Because I saw a picture of you on a KTM in the Netherlands as a teenager. So when did the motorcycle thing first start?
Well, that started at age 7.
Really?
My grandpa on my mom's side had a 50cc Barini. It's by some it's a brand that not many people are familiar with. It's basically a moped. Everybody over there, rides mopeds. When you get to turn 16, you get to ride a moped.
Mm-hmm.
And my grandpa and grandma, they both had mopeds. But anyway, his moped got stolen. He got a new moped. Months later, they located his old one, and it had been stripped down. Some kids call it, use it as a little dirt bike to go trail riding. Well, somehow my grandpa got it back and gave it to me. That was at age 7, and that's how it got started.
You're a big guy, obviously. I would imagine it's very difficult to find motocross boots. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, I've got very lucky. Back when I first started the vintage racing, as I said, I was racing it by sneakers.
Right.
So I remember being at a race in Casey, Illinois, and the owners of the track, Gene Renzi and his wife, they came up to me and said, "Hey, Rick, this is not good. This is not good for you, racing your sneakers." So they said, "We might be able to hook you up with somebody that can help you out." So they actually hooked me up with Roger DeCoster, and Roger had a connection with Alpine Stars, and Alpine Stars ended up making me a set of boots.
And there you have it. Rick Smith was my guest last week. There is no show this Sunday, but I am working on a few things. So stay tuned, and I'll be making an announcement about who my next guest is on Vintage Motocross Radio. This last Saturday, the Dick Mann Celebration of Life was held at the Richmond Ramblers Clubhouse. That was in Point Richmond, California. Dick, of course, passed away back in April, and there was a host of people there to send Richard off. Close to 800, I would say, and many of them were some really famous motorcycle riders from Northern California. On the roster there was, of course, Brad Lackey, Kenny Roberts, Eddie Mulder, Brian Farnsworth, Jimmy Odom, and so many more. I have to really commend Don MD for doing such a phenomenal job of being the MC for this event. Chris Carter did a fabulous job, too, talking about Dick Mann along the way. There's a picture of Kenny Roberts having a conversation there in the Richmond Ramblers Clubhouse. So there was food, there was T-shirts, and there's K-Man speaking to Kenny Roberts. And it was a real celebration of life, and I'm sure Richard would have wanted it that way. So many people telling so many great stories about Dick. There's Eddie Mulder, Brian Farnsworth, and Jimmy Odom. So we were there, and we got to experience that, and it was just a very, very heartwarming feeling that so many people came out to pay respect for the late Dick Bugsy Mann. There's a great picture of Don MD. And one of the most interesting things I've seen at any celebration of life I've ever been to was this top end. This cylinder is from a BSA, 2-cylinder actually. This is actually Dick Mann's urn. That's correct. Dick Mann's ashes are in one of those cylinders. And when Kay is called home, her ashes will be put in the other cylinder. Very, very fitting for the legendary Dick Bugsy Mann. Wow. What a way to go out. Dick Mann. Rest in peace, Bugsy. Pacific Northwest Vintage Motocross. That's happening this weekend, July 31st and August 1st. That is at Ward Creek in Raymond, Washington. On Saturday, the Pacific Northwest boys will be out there with all the classes that they run. Then ARMA takes over on Sunday with whatever classes they'll be running. So get up there. That's this weekend, Ward Creek. The Northwest Challenge is coming up in the middle of August. That'll be 13th through the 15th. That is at the legendary Washougal track. Now, who wouldn't want to race a vintage bike at Washougal, huh? They've got classes for everybody there from, it's a 3-moto format. There's 2 motos on Saturday. I'll be talking a whole lot more about this. In fact, I may have Chris Cecilia on the show here with us in the coming weeks before this race actually takes place. He'll tell us all about what's going on. But mark your calendar, August 13th through 15th. At Washougal. The Southern California Vintage MX Full Classic. It's never too early to get ready for this. Scott Burnworth, Debbie Burnworth put on a great show every year. We've always got a lot of sponsors, give away a lot of free stuff down there. There's a class for everyone, and I don't know of anyone that's ever gone to that didn't say they had one of the best times at any vintage race, any place. And of course, this year they will be featuring the second annual Marty Smith Memorial Cup. Coming up October 16th at Glen Helen Raceway. That's if you're on the West Coast. Now, if you're one of those East Coast guys, get down to the Field of Dreams. Got 3 clubs working together there. Field of Dreams, ARMA, and American Classic Racing. All 3 great groups that do so much for racing and vintage racing, especially in the Northeast. That happens on October 15th and 16th. Friday, there's a practice. Saturday, there's racing all day. Sunday, there's a GP-style motocross followed by an open practice all day. I know there's going to be a swap meet, there's going to be a barbecue, and there'll be a bunch of really great guys down there with a lot of bikes to display and a lot of fun racing going on. So mark your calendar. That's October 15th, 16th, and 17th at the Field of Dreams in beautiful New Jersey. Let's get down to the finish line, which is, of course, sponsored by Northwest Mako CZ. Northwest Mako CZ's got so many specials, so many great products and little items on their page every week, and this week is no different. They got a brake rod spring for a Mako, a kill button, and those little pipe insulator blocks that really help insulate your pipe on your bike, help it from rattling around and snapping off those mounts. Gives just the proper insulation, lets the pipe move a bit, and keeps you going. Now, the great thing about it is all these products are under $10. All of them. In fact, that spring is only like $3.50. So get over to the website, Northwest Mako CZ, and get yourself something. All for $30. For $30, you can get all this stuff for your Mako. Always a lot of great stuff over there. Thanks, Alan Brown, for all you do. How about a Vintage Motocross Q&A t-shirt or hoodie? They're still available. T-shirts are just $19.99. Comes with the logo across the front and my signature across the back for just a couple of bucks more. You can get yourself a hoodie. Follow the links in the show description. You can order it. It will be delivered directly to your door. Oh, look who had one on at Mid-Ohio this week. Good friend of the show, Tim Carrier, and his daughter were at Mid-Ohio doing dad and daughter thing at Vintage Motocross Days. Got the Vice Grip Parade. Oh, the Vice Grip Garage. All right. Anyway, Tim Carrier, sporting a Vintage Motocross Q&A shirt. Thanks, Tim. Sponsorship opportunities are still available, and it's a really, really great time to get in. As you can see, we've had our sponsors on our show. Some of them have been here for just about as long as we've had the show on Facebook and YouTube. If you want to get a sponsorship proposal package, please drop me an email, inbox me. I'll get one for you. We'll put a package together for you so you can start seeing the results that other people are seeing here on the show. And the results speak for themselves as far as people that we're reaching. Jordan, we have a little thing here. Here it is. Now, just this past week, between July 19th and 25th, check out this number of people we reached with the show, 30,600. And actually, I sent this to Jordan a few days ago. That number of 30,600 is actually higher than that today. If you've got a small business that you want to get off the ground and you're thinking about advertising on Facebook or Instagram, wherever it may be, get a hold of me. It doesn't necessarily have to be motorcycle related, but get a hold of me. I'll send you a proposal package. We'll put something together that fits your budget, and you could be seeing some of the same benefits that all of our sponsors here, Midco, Motion Pro, Preston Petty, and the rest of them, are all seeing from Vintage Motocross Q&A, and all the people that we reach thanks to you, all the viewers who share the show. I want to thank all of our viewers for tuning in tonight. Don't forget, there is no show on Vintage Motocross Radio this week. Let me also remind you that Joey Blevins was the Random Share giveaway winner. The dogs are not here tonight. They are out getting groomed. So they're out getting groomed, and we have to pick them up in just a little while. So I'll bring the dogs on next week, Gino and Rocco. Until then, enjoy the rest of your evening, and we'll see you next time on Vintage Motocross Q&A. Good night.